and we're going to go to Grace to tell the story of the next Theresa, which is St. Theresa of the Little Flower, and she's called several different things.
Okay, St. Theresa of Lisieux, or of the Little Flower, or of the Child Jesus, those were the names that she was called. She was born in 1873, and she lived till 1897. She was born to a mother and a father who were also very religious. Her mother wanted to be a saint, and her father wanted to be a monk, and they got married, and they were so religious that they weren't going to have sex, and then the parish priest told them to have sex and have children, and so her mother said that she would consecrate her children to God, and they ended up having 9 children, and 5 of them grew to adulthood, 5 daughters, and all 5 daughters actually went into the Carmelite to become Carmelite nuns. Therese was the youngest in the family, and she had troubled childhood by all accounts, and was having trouble containing her temper, and it seems her mother died when she was 4 of breast cancer, and she was devastated after that, and she got really sick. She had a very high fever for quite a few days, and everyone was praying because they thought she was going to die. And during that time, Mother Mary's statue started talking to Theresa, and she said that Mother Mary had appeared to her and had offered her her son Jesus to play with her, and then she was healed or cured of this illness that everyone thought she was going to die from. When she was 9, her sister that was taking care of her went into the convent, and she was devastated again, and she wanted to go to the convent herself, but they wouldn't allow her to because she was too young. But that was really her overwhelming desire. And I think by the time she was 11, she would go into states of just being connected to God, sort of trance states, and she was very devoted and didn't really want to be anywhere besides in the convent. She was so set on that when she finally she went to a pilgrimage to Rome with her father when she was 14, and she asked the Pope if she could enter the convent because she wasn't being allowed to do that, and the Pope basically said, well, we'll let the local authorities decide. But everyone was so impressed with her deep desire to be a nun that finally at the age of 15 she entered the convent to be a Carmelite nun. And I think it was the year after that that her father got very sick, and he had a stroke, and he ended up going into an asylum for the insane, and she was heartbroken that he was in this insane asylum, and there was nothing she could do for him because she was a cloistered nun. And that time period, she prayed to Jesus, and she said that it was a horrible time of suffering for her, where she experienced such dryness in prayer that she stated, Jesus isn't doing much to keep the conversation going. And after a few years, her father died, and apparently this dark night for her was relieved, and she started to have conversations with Jesus all the time again. She was, and she was, I think that the 5 sisters were all part of the same convent, and the nuns were so afraid that they were going to take over that Theresa agreed to continue to be a novice for the rest of her life, so that no one would be threatened, which was not what she wanted, because she really wanted to be a full nun. But she was resolved and realized that as a Carmelite nun, she would never be able to perform great deeds. And she said, love proves itself by deeds. So how am I to show my love? Great deeds are forbidden me. The only way I can prove my love is by scattering flowers. And these flowers are every little sacrifice, every glance and word, and the doing of the least action for love. So she took every chance to sacrifice, no matter how small it would seem. And she, every day, in so many little ways, she did things that were secret humiliation and sacrifices without recognition, because they were acts of love. And that was basically what she was committed to. So when she was in her 22, I believe, she contracted TB, and all the nuns really liked her at that point because she was no longer a threat to them. She was going to remain a novice, and she did all these deeds that were good deeds without asking for any recognition. She got very sick from TB, and she never complained once. In fact, part of what she was committed to is to offer her suffering up. And she said on her deathbed, I have reached the point of not being able to suffer anymore because all suffering is sweet to me. She died at the age of 24 in a trance, really, where she was joined with Jesus. And she is buried at the Basilica of St. Theresa in Lisieux, which is a town in France. And she also she wrote one book, and it was entitled The Way of the Soul. And it's a memoir that she wrote, the story of her soul. And she also had a very simple way. Everything about her was the little way. And I just wanted to read something she wrote in her book about this little way that appeared in her approach to spirituality. She wrote, sometimes when I read spiritual treatises in which perfection is shown with 1,000 obstacles in the way and a host of illusions round about it, my poor little mind soon grows weary. I close the learned book, which leaves my head splitting and my heart parched, and I take the Holy Scriptures. Then all seems luminous. A single word opens up infinite horizons to my soul. Perfection seems easy. I see that it is enough to realize one's nothingness and give oneself wholly, like a child, into the arms of the good God, leaving to great souls, great minds, the fine books I cannot understand. I rejoice to be little, because only children and those who are like them will be admitted to the heavenly banquet.